Roczen last weekend?
This one just gone, or we're going to talk Houston?
Let's go to Nashville. Let's start last weekend.
Nah, we got to go Houston. Let's go Houston. Because Houston, he comes out and rails them in the first main event. I think it was a 6-second win, or maybe it was either like 6 or 10 seconds over, pretty sure Coop got Dean. But that first, so I guess that's like kind of a milestone for Ken. So he's 2 years out with these injuries, and then he comes back with his first, I guess, crossing the line, checkered flag win at Houston in the first race of the Triple Crown. That's a mini milestone. Now, he's not going to count that as a win. Obviously, he doesn't get the win on the end of the night. But, I mean, you run that race for 10 more minutes, turn it into a conventional race. What? He's going to put 20 seconds on him? Like, he was the man that night. And then you go into the second race, and he crashes in the first turn, hurts his toe, comes back to the third moto, limps to the start line, puts in an effort, and doesn't get the win that he wanted. But that's got to be like a huge milestone for him to just collect a checkered flag first in a main event style format. And then we fast forward to this weekend. Now, I said it a few weeks ago, I think the last time we did the show, that those Hondas were looking really, really good in the whoops. Sealy looks amazing in the whoops. Ken has looked amazing in the whoops. This Nashville track this past weekend had two really like short but very technical whoop sections, and Ken was lighting it up. By far and away the fastest dude through those whoops. Like, it was ridiculous how good he looked through there. And look, we don't get many times a season, and we don't get many riders a season that will go fastest in qualifying, they'll get the win in the heat race, and then they'll just completely waste everybody in the main event. That only happens a few times a year.
Yep.
I mean, you might get that at get that out of Tomac at Daytona. You might get that out of like Marv at Seattle when he's on there, or like it's a rare thing that you get a guy that knows he's going to win that night. Not only knows he's going to win, but everybody else in the field knows he's going to win. Those dudes lining up for that start at Nashville on the weekend for the 450 main event, they all knew that they were about to get waxed by Ken. 100%. He was going so much faster than everybody else. It was ridiculous. And the starts were there. He was, even if he didn't get a good start on the weekend, he was so much better through those whoop sections, and everybody else struggled so hard that he just would have ate everyone. Like, it was over. And then you fast forward to Ken flying over a berm and being stuck on the backside of that berm, thinking, what the hell just happened? This was my night. This was the night that I finally got to walk on the top step of that podium. I got to kiss my wife that has been through everything with me. I got to hug my mechanics. I got all of this tonight until I didn't. And that must be a heavy feeling. And I can guarantee that in those few seconds that Ken was stuck behind that berm, and you can even see in the footage that he like tries to claw onto a tough block to stop himself going all the way over. And it was like a scene out of a movie, dude. He just claws onto it, the grip slips, and it's all over. And I can guarantee you that when that was going down, that's what he was thinking about. This was my night. And dude, sometimes racing is not fair, and the guy that should win doesn't win. And God, that was that night for Ken. Like, he looked unstoppable, and now it's back to the drawing board.
You touched on something there just a tick ago. Do you think the new CRO for this year looks maybe like it might be coming into its development zone? Like, as the season's progressed, maybe injury wise he's gotten like not better, but, past the injury more that he's had. But I wonder how much of that's come back into the development phase of the CRF, because it does look, Cole Seeley's moved forward as well throughout the year. And he's obviously coming back from a massive injury as well. So interesting to see. Obviously, I'm no tech guy, but to see how much they have progressed with that bike.
Well, that bike looks amazing to me. It has looked really good all year. I know that Todd said when he rode Ken's setup, didn't ride Ken's bike, but he rode a setup that was quite similar to Ken's, that he said it was just the craziest thing he's ever rode. It was just so different. It was so reactive, and he just wasn't used to getting like that much feedback from a bike, and he struggled to go fast on it. And then he rode like a Christian Craig setup and said it was the best bike he's ever ridden.
Wow.
So there's some stuff that Ken does differently with his bike setup, and I don't know exactly what that is, aside from sort of just what Todd sort of told me. But it is interesting, and I've been, after hearing him say that, I've been sort of trying to watch his bike a little bit more and see if it does look like reactionary in that way. And I think it does look quite active. But regardless, like, they have that thing dialed through the whoops, and it's looked good for a while. The stock bike is, I think it makes the most horsepower out of the stock bikes, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it just is starting to come of age in that testing phase like you're talking about, or if it's just a mix of those guys getting better from injuries. But I mean, I've been thinking about it lately. Do we hold Ken Roczen to such a high standard that him not winning this year is a massive letdown? Because let's put it into perspective. He has one of the worst crashes in Supercross history. Has one of the worst injuries in Supercross history. There is doubt in the first few days of that injury if Ken Roczen keeps his arm. That's the perspective we need to keep in this situation. So then, being the dude that he is, he doesn't give up. He does grueling rehab. Like, grueling rehab to get it back to having a functional limb that he can live with, right? And then we go to the point where he's getting back on the bike. Now, I was playing golf with Ken after he just sort of started doing motos again, right? And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. He had no movement in his wrist, right? So when you're doing a moto and you're in Florida and it's hot and there's sand in your gloves and everything like that, what's sort of giving you a little bit of relief in your hands is movement in your wrist. So it's not like there's just this locked thing and it's this sandpaper motion between the glove and your hand and the grips. There's a little bit of give and a little bit of movement because of the wrist movement that you have. So Ken had none of that movement. So he was going out and doing motos, and he was having the entire palm of his hand come off, skin-wise. So is he having is this a disappointing year if he doesn't win? Or do we go back to the Ken Roczen that had his palm ripped off from just your average moto that he used to be able to do all the time? Like, what he has had to come back from is so remarkable, and to just be back at this level now, like straight away. Like Millsaps couldn't do it. Millsaps got head injury, couldn't come back from it. Like there's a bunch of dudes that have had big injuries and that was it. They're done. Like we saw, how good did Stefan Roncada look at points in his career? Back injury took him out with, just couldn't manage that. Nico Izzy didn't come back. Austin Stroop didn't come back. All of these young dudes that had these promising careers that just couldn't make it back. They could not make it back from the hell that they got forced into. And we've got Ken at this incredibly high standard to where if he doesn't win this season, we're like, damn, when's Ken going to win? It's like, dude, look at what he just went through. And then you go through all of that, and then you come back, and then you break your other arm. It's pretty bad as well. And then you go through that whole process again. So it's like, damn, dude. It's almost like he should be getting some kind of warrior award just for being there with everything, you know, that he has been through. But then again, it also goes to show the standard that we hold him at. Like how good he is. When he crashed and went flying through that stadium, he was the king of the world, dude. Factory Honda lighting up everybody. Like, he looked so good, it could have been a perfect Supercross season. So it's crazy. Like, I have these moments where I have to like remind myself of all this. Like, this dude almost lost his arm, and he's back here 2 years later, was in the championship conversation for the first half of the season. And I think that what's left for Ken to do with the way that this championship fight is going to go down, I think that we see Ken win a couple races before the end of this. I think there's going to be a lot of championship noise. He's sort of not in that now. And I think he does get those wins that he really deserves to have. And
the success that he's had prior to all this, he didn't have to come back.
No, dude.
The legacy that he's already built, there's no chance that he had to come back to this.
And bro, he is such a tight ass. Like, I can't even tell you how much of a tight ass Ken Roczen is.
So did you pay for golf?
Dude, I used to pay for fucking everything when I was around him. It was ridiculous, dude.
Massive dedication. Come back to this, for sure.
Yeah, it's insane, and it speaks to it speaks to him as a person. It speaks to him as an athlete, and you know, a lot of it is to do with his upbringing and his dad as well. He's just a crazy dude. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in like a really cool way. Like that, you should see the shape his dad is in as a 50-year-old man. Like, it's out of control. So I don't know. He's just had this crazy upbringing. There's this crazy drive there, this crazy will to win, and yeah, like, you could just be this sort of rock star, cool guy dude. And I mean, like, I brought up Nico Izzy. Like, that's what he was. J-Law. All those dudes had the crazy talent that Ken has. Maybe Ken had more than them even. And you see so many kids that like piss that away, and then when something like that happens, they can't come back from it. You know, the demons Ken would have had to come back from this is so crazy. The doubt he would have had, like, yeah, he's a special dude. And I really hope that we see him get some wins before this season's out. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Whether it's this year, whether it's a 1-1 and in outdoors coming up, but you know, he will be back and he will be vindicated. And dude, I'll probably shed a tear for him when he does, because maybe no one in the sport deserves it more than him right now. And I think too, man, it's just heartbreaking to see how on he was at Nashville. He was on, bro.
He's not.
He was on. And then Joey Savatgy tucks the front, and Ken had he had nowhere to go. It wasn't like he literally could have done anything. It was in the air, his tyres touched the ground, and then Joey's back wheel was there to collect him and send him over that berm.
There's nothing you can do.
Literally nothing. Couldn't have done anything. So, but yeah, I mean, that's sort of where I'm at with Kenny. I really hope he gets a win. Fucking deserves it more than anyone, that's for sure.
Definitely. And it's just success to be back there after those things, for sure.
Oh, definitely, dude.